Welcome back. I haven't done a recording in a while. Been really busy at work, and I had to fix this machine again. What's new? Um, it turns out that the 6.8 kernel, I couldn't build certain kernel modules for it because it was missing a file somewhere. A really weird file that I'm not even sure I've never encountered before. So I had to do a lot of rebooting and stuff. Now, if you're kind of wondering how I flip back and forth between kernels, um, there are two tools I end up using. Let me just minimize this for a sec. One of the tools is called mainline kernel. Let me just see if I can find it here. It is Ubuntu mainline kernel installer. This guy goes and retrieves the current kernel list. So you can see right now that not only are we up to 6.11, right, but Ubuntu is actually up to 6.8 for their kernel. They changed the rules a little bit this summer. People were complaining that the kernels were too far behind. So now they're adopting a more current kernel. But when I use this kernel, this is where I was getting problems with things. I'd plug things in, or I try to build the current VMware for this machine, or I build the capture for the Blackmagic, and it wasn't building at all. It always complained about one and it can't complete. So I rolled back to 6.5, this one right here, and that all started working again. So I haven't pushed forward. I mean, in theory, yeah, you can see I could go put the release 6.11 in here, but it's not the Ubuntu 6.11. And I could build it, but that's a lot of work. Now, if you're wondering how do I pick the actual one that it always uses on boot time, there's a second utility you use, and that is Grub Customizer. What do I need? Oops, on the wrong window. Is it on the right window? Yeah, it's on the wrong window. So this guy here lets you pick your grub kernel defaults, right? And currently at the moment I have the 6.5 generic installed. And you can go and say right here, pre-built, this is what I'm using. But you can actually pick others, see, like this. And you can choose how long the boot manager stands on, what some kernel parameters are, the that background that shows up when it's booting, blah blah blah, and that's how I control it. So I rolled back to 6.8, did a whole bunch of testing, and now I'm back in working order again, and I can resume where I left off. Now I was going to install Theia into the local VM, but I guess I decided, well, I've already done it once on the remote VM over there. So, not the screen, this screen. So this is the desktop from the VM over there on the Windows machine. And I installed Theia. Why do I keep saying Theo? Of course, it's another unpronounceable made up word. Theia. Yeah. Well, you can see that it doesn't look like Eclipse anymore. It has the word Eclipse in the front, but it is not Eclipse. And in fact, if you look at the side icons of it, you can actually see, kind of looks familiar, doesn't it? Well, this is real Visual Studio Code, and that's Theia over there. And you can see this looks like a generation of Visual Studio Code from about a year ago. You can see things like there's no profile system in it. And in this one, a lot more stuff in here, including the profile system. Now, Visual Studio Code has done a lot of work on profiles. The interface has gotten really cleaned up and really nice. And if you haven't used it yet on your Visual Studio Code, you should. So you can create any number of profiles, and all you do is to select them, is you highlight, and you see a little check mark, you can change. So if I wanted to flip over to PlatformIO over there, I click that. Now I'm in PlatformIO. And you can see all the add-ons over here, the extensions. Change over to that one. You can see here there's the little PlatformIO home space. And it keeps all the extensions separate from each profile. So you can see that in this one. This is VNC, so we have to give it a little effort for a redraw. Let me click this again. So it's obviously doing something. It's installing Pylance again. And updating it. Some of the times it comes along when you just open extensions, it now Visual Studio Code just automatically does some updates on certain ones. I think mainly its own core ones, the ones with the little Microsoft certified on it. It belongs to them. This is something that Theia does not do very well. And in fact, until I updated this morning, one of the plugins that I think it was Pylance on here, no, the Python debugger, it wasn't even running properly. It kept complaining I can't find it, blah, blah, blah. Apparently that finally got fixed. So it's now bug free. I did install CircuitPython into there just for the heck of it to see if what would happen. But I have to say, if you're going to do any of these code editors like Visual Studio Code, you might as well stick with Visual Studio Code. It's not going to cost you anything unless you're all hung up over weird licensing crap outs, which seems like these days a lot of people are. I think if you're just a hobbyist or whatever, just stick with this. This really, the Theia is not worth your time at the moment. Maybe in a year's time. But there are also, I think I read, there's two other knockoffs of Visual Studio Code. There's an open Visual Studio Code, and there's another one. I can't remember its name, but I spotted it in a forum. Someone was talking about it. But again, it boils down to, might as well just go back, because this constantly gets updated really quick, and it's constantly being worked on. There's lots of people participating, and that's a big thing in an open source project. You want people to participate in it. And if you only got 5 developers on Theia, but you got 500 on Visual Studio Code, it's obviously going to go forward faster. Now, I still haven't figured out building the CircuitPython extension. I can build it, but for some reason, my build doesn't work. And I'm not sure how to go about fixing. I'm not a TrueType. No, is it TrueType? Yeah, TrueType expert. Even though I do have a TrueType profile in here, right there. And I can load the whole extension in here, and I can build it and blah, blah, blah. I haven't been able to tackle problems in it. Now, this whole thing you're seeing here really is just a VNC view over there of the server, right? So in the actual one I have running over here, I was messing with PlatformIO the other day on this one, and I discovered I had an issue. I was using both it and, if you recognize this is the current version of Arduino IDE, and it's actually loaded exactly the same program, the camera web server. That's this little thing right over here. There we go. Right? Now, if I compiled this little guy on Arduino, it worked. Okay. if I loaded the same code into here, it compiled, but it didn't work. I discovered I had forgotten about something that I really wish PlatformIO would deal with in a better way. When you bring up PlatformIO's homepage here, let's see if I can bring it up. Here we go. This homepage, and I don't really need the this guy here for a sec. Not only do you need to update the code that you're working on for the libraries that you need, you actually have to update sections of this at the same time. So what was happening was I was getting an error in here on these two lines in PlatformIO. They were saying that SCCB didn't exist. So I went to ESP guys and I checked on this, and they said it's changed in a newer version of the libraries for the ESP32. So I checked here, for example, ESP32, right? And it turned out I was way behind. I was like version 2 something or whatever, like 2015. I can't remember what it was. So I updated all this. And when I updated all this, the warnings about this disappeared. So I could check the header file and find that, yeah, that's the thing. But in PlatformIO, it was not. It was still giving me this error. So then I realized I had one of those Homer modems. Of course, not only do I need to update the project's libraries, right? I needed to actually go to the libraries themselves, click on the updates, and like you see right here, there's changes. So we'll update. Now this is where I wish there was a one-button solution. You could only update one thing at a given time. What you're seeing here is every time you make a project on Arduino style stuff, you have little sub projects based on the model. If you're doing a nano, or you're doing an uno, or you're doing a mega, you get this effect right here where you're actually updating the same library, but for 3 different sets. So here's all the libraries updated. But don't forget, platforms also had an update. And this was a major one in here. It turned out the ESP section in here did a major jump. It went from version 4 to 6 or whatever. So that's how long I hadn't looked at this. So as it cycles and checks for updates and all the... Now the platforms are defined in here. This guy right there. It sets the framework for what structure it's going to use and what subset it's going to use. Sorry, not platform, framework right here. So there's like 5 or so, or 7, I think, key frameworks you can be. I think you can get more. It depends how you add it. So here, for example, this framework for the CH32V has had an update. So we'll update it. Now that's a particular controller I have floating around here. I haven't tried much with it yet. Now I was thinking also adding another profile into my local one here for STM32s. Now I can do STM32s in here because if you go to boards, STM32, right, there's a whole pile of them in here, as you can see. And these are the frameworks they support. So you can actually find in here all these. This is kind of cool. I had never seen this before, but these are like the boards that are inside of 3D printers, the controller that's in them. But you can see 57 pages of thing, unless we say, let's put 100 to a page, right? And then we have 600, basically 600 STM32s. It's a huge chunk of boards. Like, I mean, everything under the sun. You'd have to be more specific on here. So I know, for example, these guys right here, these blacks. I have some of these black pills that are based on, I think, one of these models. Yeah, right here, like this black pill, this black pill. I'm not sure exactly which one I have. I have to look at the chip again. But when I did all that and then I recompiled again and I did this camera server, worked perfectly. So if you're doing PlatformIO, you have to kind of remember regularly to go into the section for updating libraries and frameworks and make sure you keep up to date on those. Because it might look like you compiled perfectly, but it doesn't work. At the same time, I realized I did all that. I flipped over to the profile for ESP EDF, this one here, and I updated the expressive to the current 5.3 something Git. I just clicked the buttons. It automatically did it all. It was pretty simple. This one actually was a little more complicated because you had to know where to go and you had to click several buttons. So now one thing I did do this week so I might have two of these things. I didn't think so. But this particular one I have here in my hand, this guy here, he has CircuitPython on it. So following the instructions of Adafruit on doing the ESP32s, you can use their web interface thingy to talk to it. Now I saw a plugin for Visual Studio Code for the exact same interface to programming one of these because there is no USB storage on here, so it doesn't show up as a drive letter. You actually have to connect to it with kind of like a serial connection, right? Now the web interface thing, let's see if I can bring this up. If I put this on, and I'm just checking over here. So you have too many tabs open. So we need to know kind of what the IP address this thing got. So it looks like, let me try this again. There we go. So it flipped over. You can see here expressive, and it was assigned 214. So let me just spawn a new browser window off. So now it spawns up like a miniature little web server inside of itself. So that's what this thing is. That's the files on it, just like you would see in Visual Studio Code if it was in there. And at the moment, that's the only code it has. But you can click this, and you end up with a very basic editor. that you can use. I think you can get to the REPL too. I think the best way to do that one is actually Minicom, where you specify a I think it's a port, and I think you have to pass it. Not a device, but a terminal. I've only done this a couple of times, so I wonder if I can just do 192.168.42.214. Oh, maybe dmessage. Let's see. It is on USB, so let's try that. Dev tty USB 0 minus D. There we go. Now, if I have to do COM parameters, I think that's too high. Let's try C. There's a way of doing it, and you have to use a COM program to see the REPL. I don't think you can do the REPL through here. Oh, here's the fancy code editor. I knew they had it running. Let's see. So we can say open code like so. Can we get a... There you go. Got it. I've forgotten that they've done work on this. It's been a while. Ooh, BLE. I don't think this has Bluetooth. I think it just has basic 2.4 wireless. But that's the idea from this, guys. Now, I don't have the camera web server in a Python version. I don't think anyone's ported it yet to CircuitPython. There was a piece about it. So here I was starting to research some of the stuff for it. This is supposed to be a wrapper around this camera that's on here that will run in the ESP thing, but I haven't learned how to do everything with it yet. Good Lord. I think Discord is going nutso again. I had this on the Control AX. Yes. Yeah, Discord, I don't know what's going on with you. I think last time I had to do a PS, no, kill all Discord. I think that's what it was. And then run it again. It got hung up and trying to start up for some reason. There we go. If you're not aware, you want Discord because of the Adafruit channels. This stuff right here. This is where you're going to get support on CircuitPython, big time. And of course, if you need any pet photos, there you go. I hear it, cats are a winner. There we go, there's a cat. Full control of the cell phone. So, VM, Brahma. Well, I don't need to keep this open anymore. I think I will disconnect from this safely. Well, one thing with these ones, since they're not a, they don't present a USB drive, you can just pull them because you won't wreck the file system or anything like that. Other ones that actually do have that as a file system, like this Pico 2, for example, right? You better not be doing that. I mean, you watch them doing it all the time, but I wonder how many times they go to the low level and find out that the file system is corrupt. See? They're still not doing FAT very well. There's rules about FAT and they're not doing it. So occasionally I just have to run that on these things just to make sure the file system is actually clean. But let's switch over to CircuitPython. I can't remember what I put on this. These are the new Pico 2s. I talked about them last time. They still have flaws. No reset button. Why not? I don't understand why they don't. And we'll search at PyCon. There we go. I don't think I've mounted this thing yet, so CircuitPython. I think it's the second one. I hope it is. Yep. Where did my dialog box go for it? Oh, there it is. I do really hate what Visual Studio's code with the File Explorer. This is stupid. You have to know where to look for this. This is in media. Right here. I wish they would just launch the default file explorer to pick things, but apparently they're not. Oh, you might have noticed my cute little prompts. And experimenting with them. I don't know if I'll keep them or not. Haven't decided yet. Bundles. Now I rebuilt the stubs and boards directories just the other day to take into account newer boards. Because the Raspberry Pi Pico 2 wasn't in here. Where are you? Oh, right. This one won't have it in the list because I kind of rolled it back a little bit. Um, I needed a beta. Um, if we go back to here and we go to not that, not that, uh, not that. And we go to CircuitPython download, and we go for Eco, that guy right there. It's in beta. So in order to have beta support in your CircuitPython there, you're going to have to rebuild the stubs and blah, blah, blah all again. If we go here, no, not here. Here we'll do. If we go into work, problem, we cd into the VS Code, CircuitPython. This is the 020 tree. So, yeah, let's go away and get rid of rm. That's rf boards dot and stubs dot. I don't need them anymore. And we move boards to boards dot 914, and we move stubs to stubs 914. Go back to scripts. We buy the build stubs thing. See the 920 alpha 2351. Well, it's now shift D. It's going to be beta dot 0. Okay. So if we rm minus rf to CircuitPython directory, we don't need it. We're going to rebuild the whole tree. And then we go into scripts and we say build. See, completely new tree. Now that command in the scripts is going to get the branch called 920 beta 0. This is the biggest change, I think, in the way the CircuitPython plugin works. Is not strictly getting everything anymore. Um, it'll do the initial part like this. The real key is this frozen crap you're seeing right here. Um, if you don't get this right, the next parts of the build process won't work. So you have to follow Adafruit's. And I don't know why they did this. They should have just left it as pure gets, not makefiles. But they are. So we have to work within the system. So while that is whining away at things, um, work problem. Uh, so yeah, we have to get rid of, see all this commands right here. This stuff is gone. Doesn't work. Doesn't do any. We changed this. They used to have a level in here. No, doesn't work. Um, and the last little bit is to remember to do this. You need that templated board one that they create. You can't just erase it, otherwise it causes problems. But this sort of update will get you going. So how are we doing? So here's the getting all the deltas. This is what makes this a much longer process now. Is you're going through a lot more detail on putting together the CircuitPython directory first and getting it ready for what the CircuitPython extension is expecting to actually work on. So that happens later in this file. So after all this stuff here up here is done, then we get into this stuff and this stuff, and then we actually do the make stubs. Now, believe it or not, this make stub stuff right here was already there. I mean, I could go in after this is all done, I could actually simply go in there and say make stubs. But I will not have that nice stubs board structure. I will have this big compressed file, gzip somewhere, and actually I never found it, that generates, I have to go find it. It generates the actual stubs. Now there's another completely new method for doing all this, getting the stubs in, but it's more a manual process of getting it in. There is also apparently in the Py repos, you can actually install the board dependency stuff in there too. Um, there's a guy on Adafruit, what's it called? Not Scott, Foamy guy. Um, had a video that walked you through setting up their way of doing stubs and boards, right? The same thing. But it worked. This thing has a better interface, I think. I just wish it could be updated. It needs a lot of updates. It needs updates on uh, the type of NPM it uses, the type of yarn it uses. Oh, it goes on. There's a whole bunch of stuff in this packages that it needs all newer updates to. But if I do all that or any of that, even off the stock one, I can't seem to get it to run. And I'm not sure why. Really, really need the guy to spend some time and figure it out. But I haven't seen him on responding to anything in the Git for more than a year now. So it might become an orphan project eventually. Oh, this one here, this is a big one. This is the Raspberry Pi SSDK right there. It's huge. It takes it a while to get through this one. So, I mean, these are all the issues currently floating open on it. And as you can see, 9 months. Now there are forks to this. There's a whole bunch of them. 33 of them. I think I was looking at this guy here, but I don't think he updated much in it. He just tweaked something and that was it. I'm not sure what he changed. Yeah, I mean, even the notes aren't even up to date on this. I think I checked this, was checking this one out too. Yeah, see, it's like they've cloned it, but they haven't really done anything with it. So, I mean, I could clone it too, but until I can actually build it correctly and have it run on default, looks like we have a winner. Ta-da! So now, if we actually, where are we? We back up one. We now have a boards and stubs. So in order to use this, let's close off code for a sec. And we'll just do an MC. And we need a .vs code directory here. Extensions. Okay, Control T. T. Actually, let's move stubs to stubs.914 because I think that's what these are. Move boards. Nope. Move boards to boards .914. Then we come back over here, Control T, F5. So now we are at the beta version of it. So if we bring out Visual Studio Code again, like so, now you see Raspberry Pi Pico 2 is down there. It's actually in the list. Raspberry Pi Pico 2. The other thing, when you look at that list, see all these blanks here? They're not blanks. They're actual boards. Okay. The problem is the way this is one of the bugs in the add-on. It parses based off of UID and VID of a USB, but it only puts the correct names in there if they're in the actual data file, the JSON file that actually contains all the boards. So all these guys here, those fields are not filled in correctly, so they come out with blank. but there are technically actual boards in there that are actually here, but their names aren't here. Now, what I was trying to do with this is also, and this is where my TypeScript is just fails, is can we parse and get those names differently? Like, I mean, instead of depending on one way, can we get them from a different way? Because when you do a D message on one of these boards, and I think I had one of these boards here so that I can actually look at it, you can still get their company name and or model of the board, but you have to do it in a different way. I was trying to hope to do this, and that's why we got things like this weird names, right, in here. So, but now this CircuitPython extension is built around the 920 beta 0. So I think we're getting fairly close. Probably another, I don't know, month or so, maybe 2 months. We might be at 920 release. Now I wish that whole build process, like I mean, running the script there, was just in the command list here for CircuitPython. Yes. There could be a command in here that says rebuild stubs and boards folders. That would be so much nicer. It would actually fix a bunch of issues with this. But again, I'm not good at the TypeScript stuff. I haven't even checked where those functions actually come from, how they're done. But they're buried in there somewhere in the code. But yeah. So I haven't tried out in the Pico 2 the RISC-V cores that are in here. Now the Pico 2 has two ARM cores and two RISC-V cores, and you can use any combination as long as you only use two cores at a time. So you can do two ARMs, an ARM and a high RISC, or two RISCs. It's up to you. And someone did demonstrate some code already that split it, and they had actually had a ARM and a RISC running at the same time. Who knows? It'd be interesting. Oh yeah, I did turn it off in here. I need to turn it back on in here. How did I do that again? There was a way you had to turn this on, and I can't remember. Mm-hmm. Okay, so file, settings, references. What are we looking for? Add feature. Terminal font. Okay. So I have the font installed. Oh, I wonder if I did that on here. Just a sec. And you can go away. And by dot, is it profile? Nope. provide dot bash rc. There it is. And dot bash rc. And let's see what happens when I load. I might have to log out and log back in completely, but we'll see what happens. There you go. Prompt's back. I was experimenting with the prompt itself. It's called Oposh. And you saw the font, the Meslo LGM right there, nerd font. That does the things like these icons. It combines the icons and the words together into the same font database. That's what's different about this one compared to the, let's say, hack font or something like that. And you're probably wondering, maybe 14's a bit big. Let's change it to 12. Yeah, that's not bad. My eyesight can handle that. Okay. And yes, the only thing we're running on this thing is Blink. I don't even think you can see it. There it is. See, blink, blink. I still have 3 more to put pins on and stuff. So I did 2. Another one here. Yeah, I did another one here too. So but yeah, so that's all my trials and tribulations lately for this. I might have more time to do stuff like this. I'll be on a kind of an enforced break for a while, so it might give me a chance to actually catch up on things I wanted to do. But it's kind of hard during the day when you work and then you come home and you really don't want to do anything tedious or hard or makes your brain think, right? So, but I'm going to leave it at this. And maybe next time I think I will try. Should I try the 6.8 kernel again? I'm tempted, but I don't really want to do it. There are other things. There was a radar module I wanted to relook at again, see if I can try to get the code to work. There's also, I have this one here. This is the Challenger. It has what's called an ultra wideband gizmo on it. That's this thing right here. And it's built around a feather form factor. You can see. And it, yeah, but there's no CircuitPython code for it yet. It's all Arduino at the moment, I believe. And it has a 2040 on here. Little gunk on there. So, and there's another soldering job. I have to put the pins back. I put them all on crooked on this one. This is that I2C breakout seesaw board. And again, when I was trying to do buttons, I got the wrong buttons. They're too high. I want the lower ones, so I haven't figured that out yet. There's this one also that sits the piggybacks. I think this just piggybacks on a oh, can't remember what it's called. Cutie Pie. Yeah, but I was hoping for a plug-in version. But hey, so yeah, it's kind of sad in Canada for us now. We cannot get the bonus things in Adafruit anymore. They just stopped doing it. They claim that it's just too complicated to get across the border. Which is annoying. So only people in the US get the bonus things if they buy so much stuff. So there's no point anymore on Adafruit getting a large order so that you can get the freebies, because you won't get the freebies anymore. So no more KBE, these guys. No more blue fruits, no more other gizmos that they were giving away. So, but I'm going to call it here because that's it. It's about an hour's worth of time wasted. Yeah, where's my button? Oh, right over here. Is it the right one? Yeah. Stop recording.